Okay, so the first thing I'm just going to do is I am going to let our panelists introduce themselves. And I actually have to say something really quick. So we already heard about Jess. I can't talk about how much we love Jess anymore. It'll go to her head. So we just got to keep that on lock. But Christine is here all the way from fucking Australia. Woo! To speak here. We met Kristina at an amazing event. We've actually been at a bunch of events over the years, which is amazing, and through Chris and Lori. And what was actually amazing was we really connected around, I think like sales. You have such an amazing mindset around all that. Had you on my podcast, you were fabulous. And so Kristina one time was like, "Oh, I would love to speak at your event," and I was like, "Yeah, you live in Australia. That's a little far." And she was so gracious. And when I invited her, it was another one of those like, of course moments. And she really wanted to serve everyone. So she's a little genius, and I'm so excited to have both of you guys here today with us. So what I'll get you to do is, maybe Maria, if you want to give them the mics, and you can do a little bit of an introduction of yourself and your background, and maybe why the topic of like mindset is so important when it comes to business.
Thank you so much for having me first and foremost. Of course I'm going to fly this far for you. Seriously, when Kristina asks, it's like, yes, of course. And to be a part of such an incredible day and to meet so many of you is just a dream come true. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So my full name is Christine Corcoran, but no relation to Barbara, unfortunately. I'm a business mindset coach and high-ticket sales strategist. So I love working with ambitious women in business who are ready to scale and grow beyond their next income ceiling, and I help them become more confident in sales. I come from a sales background, and back in corporate, we were very much taught the masculine way of selling. And I'm sure you understand what I mean by that, which is like push, fear, shame, manipulation. And as women, we do not want to do that. And so I work with a lot of women that literally come to me and say, "I hate sales." And I'm like, "Great, let me turn it around for you." So one of the biggest components is the mindset side when it comes to sales, because we all have fears around being too salesy, too pushy, too sleazy, all the things. And it also comes back to our belief in ourselves and how we back our own offers, how we believe in what we do, how we believe in our offer so wholeheartedly that we're willing to be uncomfortable and have those sometimes awkward conversations, but we can talk more about that. But yeah, the mindset piece, it always comes back to, with all the women that I work with, there's always something underlying that's impacting the way that we show up in business.
I know, I love that. We talked about this a little bit yesterday at the VIP night about this idea of like women doing business differently. And that's the purpose of all of this is like, we have, Maria and I in particular, we do business with a lot of men. We always laugh because our website is very pink. So when a man fills out the inquiry form, we're always like, how did he find this? How did he get here? And then our like one employee, like full-time employee, is like the best man on earth, Ben, wherever he is. But yeah, it's so interesting. We do business so differently, so really leaning into that. So I love that. And Jess, I will just for a minute chat about Jess. Jess is extremely humble when it comes to talking about the size of her business and really what she has achieved. I'm not going to give any information, but Jess has built like an amazing, amazing business, both on the coaching side and then also through her network marketing business. And then the other piece of it too is she coaches for a really well-known coach. This is public information. Okay, good. Okay, could you imagine? I was like, I said this for James Wedmore, and so James Wedmore is an amazing mentor. We bought his course and. Honestly, like all about like online business, sales, funnels, and Jess is, and it's a very, I'm just gonna give her this, and then I'm gonna let her introduce herself. It's a very prestigious thing to be one of James's coaches. He really does, they do a lot to get into his world, and so Jess was of course chosen, and she serves so many people in there. So Jess, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about your sales background and why you think mindset is so important when it comes to growing a business?
Love it. Oh my gosh. I'm going to come here more often. You guys are so nice to me. Okay. Background in sales. So what I love as far as how mindset and sales are related is I learned very early on that sales, I couldn't understand why it got such a bad rap. And then I saw when someone was trying to convince, coerce, they're thinking like, what I offer isn't enough. I have to try to convince you to have this. And that's when it feels icky. And so I believe that like when you're in your power and you have belief around what it is that you're offering, then you just get to have a clear conversation. And when you communicate, then you get to say, oh, are we making a match? This is what I offer. What are you looking for? Let's get clarity there. Oh, great. We move forward or not. And so kind of removing a lot of the pressure around it and the need to like pick me. It's just, no, we're grown adults. We're just having a conversation. And especially when you view the people that you're helping as, someone that you feel called to help, and that what you have to offer is something that's really beneficial and a gift, then it just makes it so there's no like ick or anything about it. You don't have to even have like any specific tactic, because you get to just be a normal human and have a great conversation and make a match.
I love that. Maria, do you want to maybe chat a little bit? And so Maria actually doesn't do sales in our business, mostly because it would take her to the Lord. We're like pretty confident. When we started our business together, we used to do everything together. Maybe people resonate with that, right? When you start a business, you're judge, jury, executioner. And so Maria and I, we would do all our sales calls together, and I love sales calls. I love talking to people. I love talking people out of working with us. I love it all. I'm so interested in people's businesses. And Maria would go on these calls, and after she'd be like, I'm going to need the 1 hour break after that until they horizontally.
1 hour is generous. It's more like the rest of the day.
I was just trying to be generous with it. But you have really focused on your mindset, and that has been a huge growth like over the last few years. You've definitely heard from Maria talking about how nervous she was like being on stage and talking about business and growing it. We've grown our business pretty quickly. But I'm curious for you, like if you want to talk a little bit about like how the mindset work has been really impactful for you in showing up more confidently to be able to sell, like even if you're not like doing sales calls, but you sell tickets, you sell into our membership and things like that.
Yeah. It's so funny because my dad is like, if you did sales for the business, like you'd be just like your mom, because they had a business together. And my mom, basically, they were lawyers and did every single case pro bono. I'm like, how cheap can we do this? And Kristina's like, make it stop.
She did one of our very first Discovery. This is where actually Maria got fired from Discovery calls. She goes on a Discovery call. She's like, I just kind of convinced them that they could do it themselves, and then I just kind of taught them how. And I was like, perfect. Yeah, perfect.
I'm a bleeding heart, okay? No, but the mindset has been everything. Like, I can't even believe that it's real that I'm like sitting on this stage having this conversation compared to where I was when we started, which wasn't even that long ago. We really just got started like around 4 years ago, Kristina and I, with the agency. And I've had the most incredible transformation, all due to mindset work. And Jess, your mentorship has been a big part of that as well. So thank you. And all the things Jess shared today, like that has been my journey too, is like you have to step into that belief. You have to understand that like we all feel that imposter syndrome. We all have those doubts and those thoughts of like, I'm not good enough. Like Kristina and I don't have any education in business or marketing. Like, who are we to be like doing these things? We made millions of dollars in our agency. Like, you guys, we can do it. You know what I mean?
My favorite thing is when people ask me about my education, and I tell them I have a master's degree, and I leave it vague because it is in peace and conflict studies. So if the conversation goes awry, I know what to do, but I can't help much more after that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I lived in a world of just self-doubt and burnout and trying to be all these things I wasn't, and trying to keep up with Kristina and do all the things she did, which was a recipe for disaster for us both. And I would honestly be able to only get in like a few good hours a day because I was so stressed, so much anxiety, so burnt out. And I really had to like hit that rock bottom, and I've just been like slowly kind of building back up through the mindset work, and it's night and day. I think it's like the number one business strategy is focusing on your mindset and your own personal development and growth.
So who here is worried about selling or sometimes gets nervous about selling? Yeah, it feels like maybe some scarcity around selling. What are some words that come up for people when they think about sales? You can just shut them out. Cringe, yeah. Sleazy, okay. Aggressive. Grasping, yeah. Safety? Fake. Sorry, my spray tan's in my ears. But okay, awesome. Okay, so you ladies here, yeah, I'm just kidding. More spray tan girls like, okay, so, that's why I can't have a public stage. Okay, so if hearing those words, for you ladies who are experts, in my opinion, like, what would you say to someone who's feeling those things about sales? Like they're worried about sales, they're feeling sleazy, they're like, oh, cringe, I'm about to get a discovery call. Like I feel like, or maybe they're in a scarce season where sales are necessary. Like what would you say to those people to try to overcome some of those feelings?
So first thing I would say is that you're too focused on yourself versus your client. So one of the biggest things when shifting from a masculine way of selling, which is the pushing and convincing, is just listen and connect. Like if you care about your clients enough, care about the transformation that you create, and you're willing to listen and ask questions, it'll change the game for you in sales. Like so often when we're so focused on ourselves, like what are people going to think about me? Are they going to think I'm pushy, I'm sleazy, like those types of things, or fake? Like listen to that. And like what about your process is fake, right? And it's honestly because of the conditioning that we have around sales. So you will most likely, your brain will remember a past experience that maybe you didn't enjoy. But then you also forget the positive experiences that you have with sales. So if you think about something that you've purchased that was an incredible solution to a problem you're experiencing, or something that was a desire that you've always wanted to invest in, those sales experiences are usually much more enjoyable, but we forget about them. When we're putting ourselves in that situation to sell, we are coming from the wrong place thinking about ourselves. We've got to really just tune into our client and pay attention to them and listen to them and be curious. So I actually have a little sales method. Do you want me to share the little sales method? So if you want to make more sales, in general, like I'm just going to simplify it for you really, really easily. So it's my 4C method, okay? The first C is conversations. If you just prioritize having more conversations. Often we get so caught up in doing more content and doing more networking and all those types of things, but we can be focused too much on ourselves. Whereas if you're like just interested, and so then starting to think about prioritizing more conversations in your business. The second C is curiosity. Because what do we do with those conversations? Often we think, oh, I've got to sell, I've got to present my offer, which again is like an output, whereas I want you to think about receiving and listening. So if you can tap into some curiosity and just be curious about your clients, curious about the experience that they're having, about the problem they're experiencing, curious to understand their needs. Right? That's what sales is having a solution to a problem they're experiencing or meeting a need. So if you're just curious. The third C is connect. Connect their needs to your offer, right? How does your service or your product solve the problem or meet a need for them? And how can you make that available to them? So in my opinion, sales is an invitation. If done well, it's an invitation, right? A conversation and invitation. So be curious and then connect it to your offers. And the last one is care enough. Care enough to follow up. Care enough to stay connected. Too many people look at conversations and go, well, if they didn't say yes now, it's a no. But it's actually the complete opposite. People need to take time to think about an investment, especially if it's a high ticket investment. So if you stay connected, the amount, and you guys talked about it before, the fortune is in the follow-up. 100,000%. Like if you just take enough time to care enough to follow up. And so what I mean by that is that show you care. Your sales process should show how much you care about your client. And so if you allow yourself to follow up from a place of care, it allows people to feel seen and heard and nurtured in the sales process rather than just dropped because you didn't say yes straight away. A lot of sales, majority of sales, happen in the follow-up and never from one conversation. So often we just get in our heads about that of like, oh, it's one conversation. No. It's multiple. So allow yourself to develop those connections with your clients. Yeah.
Love that. Such good value there, guys.
I'm going to need to borrow someone's notes after that. Those 4 C's, I'm like running them through, trying to memorize them.
You had trouble with the 4 P's earlier, whatever
I
that
know.
one is.
I know. Perfectionism, procrastination, people pleasing, and
You have one more than you did last time. By the end
I
of the day,
know.
she's going to have all 4.
it'll be on my Instagram, okay? It's actually a treasure hunt. This is a game.
I
we're
mean,
playing.
this is a marketing tactic. Everyone's going to go follow you to find out the 4th
Everybody
P.
come DM me what you think the 4th P is. Okay, what I'll add to this, I love the part with, like entrepreneurs when you're like, oh, I need the sale. And so we start to equate like the sale with our survival. And that's something where we've got to break up with that, right? When we start to put that pressure on somebody else, that's when we start getting those words of like, this is cringe, this is, it doesn't feel good for anybody involved. And so we learned earlier that you can choose a feeling state. You can be in whatever vibration you want. And if we are in a state of scarcity, you're going to repel your dream clients. If someone was going to come and sign with you and they needed your service and you're there in a desperate energy, it's going to repel. And it's only going to attract people that are going to be a nightmare to work with, okay? So that's something that you want to check yourself first. And it feels so much better. Like you can implement those 4 C's so beautifully when you're in your power, when you are clear and breaking up with it. And sometimes it just takes this remembering of like, okay, when I am abundant, I attract abundance. If I equate, I need this person to give me money for my survival, that's bad across the board. The other thing to take it super woo-woo, where does money come from? You might look and you're like, well, it's from that person that signs with me, and they send me and I get the notification. Money comes from the universe through people, okay? It comes through, like, if you think about it, it's like literally shows up as like numbers on a digital screen. We're not exchanging actual cash. Like, it's really kind of mystical when you think about it, right? But when we kind of say, well, money is everywhere, money's always circulating around, then we're no longer holding ourselves like, you have to give me that money for my survival. Money's everywhere. Money can flow to you in a variety of ways. And when you have that abundance mindset, then when you get to have the sales conversation, it's separate from your calling in of the money. It's not putting that pressure on an individual.
Also, I just want to say before Maria answers, like, not all money is good money. I don't. Would you agree?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Happy money.
Yeah. Like, and that's something Maria and I have learned. Like, we learn this lesson annually, where we do something in a scarce season. Because even though like our business has grown so much, we have scarce seasons. You know, this summer I was like, "This is the end. You think this is the end?" And a big part of it was like, Stacey, our CFO. I would like voice note her, and I'm like, "You think I should wrap this up and go work?" But like a big part of it was that I took a lot of the summer off. I had a baby in June, and like I wasn't doing anything to like do any revenue generating activities that I normally would do. So then I was like, oh, I'm not going to the gym. I'm not getting the results I don't want because I'm not going to the gym. It was like the same thing. I was like, oh, I haven't met any new people. I haven't went to any events. I'm not sending any emails. I'm not doing connection calls. I'm not doing podcasts, the things I know that grow our business. And I wasn't seeing the results of it. And so then when a client would come in, I would be like, oh, I'm going to grip. Like, I'm going to, and then these people would be like, I could always tell, I'm like, oh, there's lots of negotiating. Like, or, you know, the conversation feels a little icky. It feels like there's going to be some scope creep. And it is better to say no in that moment than to take like faster money for like, because it just takes up mental space. I don't know, so.
Yeah, that's basically exactly what I was gonna say. Some clients are just not worth it. They will tear you down, you know what I mean? Like there are some people who just no amount of money is worth working with them. And that's actually, I think for me, the biggest mindset shift in sales is like starting to see it kind of what you were mentioning earlier, Jess, as like as a service, as almost like you're doing them a favor. You're like really, really helping them with something instead of getting on the call thinking like, I need to convince this person that they're gonna like give me money. It's like drop that energy, leave that at the door, and see it as a conversation as to whether or not this is gonna be a good fit and you actually can provide them that service and move the needle in their business. I think that's been the biggest growth for us. Like at the beginning, our motto was, we'll do anything for money. Almost anything.
This was before OnlyFans and the feet
My
pic
mom's
thing.
not here yet, thank God. And changing that narrative has really been, I think, the biggest thing for us in sales. But I'd love to turn this question back on you because I feel like you're the least cringy saleswoman of all time. So what thoughts do you have?
I think for me, it's about value. And that's like really what I try to lead with all the time is that like, even if I do a call with, like I'll probably do, like say I do 5 discovery calls in a week, I would say 2 of those people are not meant to work with us, and I know immediately. Like right from the beginning, I'm like, oh, they maybe don't have the budget, or they're too early in their business, or they're not going to stay committed to a podcast. I can tell by the way that they work. Like, and I don't want to sell them a podcast that they're never going to launch, right? Or that it's never going to come to fruition. Like, I want to work with people who are excited about like what we're doing, right? And so I love to just pour value in because the truth of sales is that, like, in my opinion, is that you're not only selling to the person who's buying from you, you're selling to everybody in their network. So if you leave people with a good impression, they might not be like the perfect person for you, but they might know the perfect person. So I was on a panel or something recently, and someone was asking me about how do you get over, I was coaching Chris Lori's mastermind, and someone was like, I have all these like high school friends and people who are watching me, and I don't know what to do with these people on my Instagram. And I'm like, those people might need what you have. And if they don't, they might be the first person to be like, oh my gosh, I might not be looking for a personal trainer, not looking for a personal trainer, but Leslie is amazing. And then if Inbal comes to me and Inbal's like, hey, I'm looking for a personal trainer, I might be like, Leslie, right? Like it might not be my fit, but it could be Inbal's, right? So you never know. You can work with Leslie. If I was in Ottawa, I would work with Leslie. But you never know who needs you. And so just adding value. And I think sometimes people place too much, and this is a hot take, I don't know, maybe too hot of a take. Like I think sometimes people place too much value on their time. And like And not in a like you waste your time and talk to everyone, because I've been in that season too, where like you meet someone, you're like, oh god, like this has gone nowhere, or this person's a huge energy leak for me. But you're never going to give someone too much information that'll keep them from working with you. So I know when we did Fast Foundation, someone was like, oh, there's this sales thing. It's don't spill your jelly beans in the lobby. Like you never want to show people like too many cards. Yeah, it's out because there's so much trust you need to build with people. So when people are like, what should I post on social? It would be easy for me to be like, well, if you worked with my team, I can, then that's how you'll find out. But I'm like, post this, try this, go do this. And then at the end of it, that usually actually like results in them hiring us. I have a toxic trait. If I have a few too many drinks, and I am somewhere and someone shows me their Instagram profile, I will give them a live audit. And one time we got a massive client from it because I was like, this is embarrassing. And the guy was like,
it's usually not kind.
What?
It's usually not kind.
And the guy was
mortified.
Like, yeah. And he was like, really? And I was like, you guys are like a multi-million-dollar company. Like, what is happening here? And then we did a call and then they hired us. So good. Those are my tips, guys.
I can add to that.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So years ago, the whole marketing take was like, given the why and the what, but never the how. Yeah, you remember that? That's so far out the window now that if you are not giving the how, people do not see the value in working with you and they will go to someone else that's giving them the how. People need to experience quick wins. They need to experience your value. And so if you're not giving away more for free, then you're most likely holding yourself back from making more sales, for sure.
Stacey's actually a great example of that, where don't go and ask Stacey all your tax questions. She's like, God, why have you done this? But like Stacey's so generous with her time, where like there have been times where I'm like, Stacey, like we have a question for you. Like we use her services. I'm like, and she's like, it's a quick question. You can ask. Like, and we worked with accountants before. That was a very hefty investment. We worked with someone before who it was like impossible to get a hold of them. And if we got a hold of them, they would send us a $1,500 bill, right? So it was, yes, and we were on a retainer. So what was interesting about that is like now I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm happy to pay for it. I'm excited to pay for it because we get such a great service. We see so much value, right? So I think if you show people the value, it pays off in the long run. What would you say to people here who, I think a lot of people here are selling on social, and it's like keeping up with lots of trends, and that can really mess with your mindset, right? Where we're all on social, we're seeing Alex Hormozy and his nose drip everywhere, right? We're all hearing all of this. No, you guys haven't? Yeah, okay. I'm just saying, we've seen it. How would you tell people to like kind of maintain perspective when really trying to sell on social?
I think in my opinion, it's always coming back to your ideal client. And as much as like people think, oh, I got my ideal client avatar in the beginning of my business and I didn't revisit it, that's most likely where you're stuck with what content to create for them. So you've always got to go back to your ideal client. And if you think about, like if you're utilizing socials to sell, we want to think about like people aren't there to be sold to. They're there to be connected with and they're there to be entertained. So you want to weave in entertainment and connection and then have stories. Like I love using storytelling, and the best you can use storytelling is really think about what's in it for my client, what's in it for the person watching, because often we get too caught up in it's like our personal brand. So starting to think about like, again, what's in it for my client, paying attention to what I'm sharing. And then I always like to teach my clients to weave in transformational stories. So sharing about what you do and how you help people and the transformations you've created for your clients, it just sometimes gets lost a lot, and we get so caught up in creating educational content instead of thinking like take people on the journey of where a client started with you, the breakthroughs they've had with you, or the transformation they've had, or the solution that they've gained from your experience and expertise, and then where they are now. So I see people often sell from a place of what's included, and they get on socials and they're like, here's what I do, and here's I'm sharing 12 coaching sessions and you can work with me as a coach. But that's not what people buy. People are buying the transformation, they're buying the outcomes and the results that you create, and often people forget to share that. And I don't know whether is that common in Canada as well. Like I find that in Australia they're very scared to share the transformation and the results that they achieve. And so I'm really trying to break that mold in Australia, because they're so like, how do I put it? Like they just lack a little bit of confidence to be like, yeah, this is what I can achieve. This is what I can do. And I love that about Americans. They're very forthcoming and sharing, like, this is how amazing I am. And I'm like, yes, I love it. But from a good place, like it's definitely from a good place. But Australians really shy away from that. Yeah. And so if you can get really confident,
and the Canadians are behind the Australians.
Yeah.
And that we're like, We're not that
Yeah.
good. Don't buy it.
Yeah. talking you out of buying. And so
Maria.
if you think about just writing down, like, what are the specific results and outcomes you create with your service or your product, and share more about that, you will have more people paying attention and wanting to invest in what it is that you do.
Love that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Leslie's like at church here. She's like, so good.
I heard an amen over there. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so along this, when you're seeing a lot of different strategies, because, I mean, if you counted it in any given day, you would see 1,000,003 strategies that people are utilizing and then people promoting. Like, this is the sales strategy you need. This is a strategy to XYZ. And so I kind of take the approach of, you're going to be inundated with that always. If you're selling on social, you're going to see that somebody else is doing Alex Hormozy with his nose strip, and he, like, claims a certain way, and you're going to see other people. Here's the thing. When you are in your belief and when you are in your clarity, you can make any strategy work. And so the prerequisite is, do you believe in yourself? Do you believe in your product? Do you believe that this is a gift for people? Do you believe that you're going to make a match? So when you check in with that, then you get to say, okay, which one lights me up the most? And that's how you pick the strategy, and then you put some blinders on, right? Test it out, see what the results are. I'm also a big fan, as much as I'm into the mindset and soul, also, like, get your data, get your metrics. Is this performing? And see, you can track your numbers to see if it's effective. Too often, why I say this is because people will be like, oh, I'll try that. Oh, I didn't get a sale, so I'll try that. I'll get that. So you've got to see it through, so you can have the data, and then be checking in with yourself simultaneously of, do I have the belief in this? Do I believe that this will work for me? Does this feel aligned? I think one of the, I guess I would use the word sad things that I see is when people think that they have to do something that they absolutely hate to make a sale. I hate this process. I hate doing it, but somebody said it's going to work and we're going to do it. You are a powerful creator. You don't have to go do a sales system that you hate. Get one that you feel aligned with, and that's how you're going to draw in the right people for you and also feel good in the process.
1,000%.
So good. Oh my God, I have so many thoughts, so many years of social media things and mindset stuff that we've overcome. One, I think a huge thing is quality over quantity. Like, we grew our agency to $1 million within a year with, like, 3,000 followers, like, but a really solid 3,000 followers who are, like, our biggest fans and believed in us. And you don't need a big following. You don't need to go viral. In fact,
I prefer you don't go
yeah,
viral.
we literally had this conversation last night. We were like, oh, going viral isn't all it's cracked up to be. There's some goblins that start to appear. But really focusing on that quality audience, like celebrating when you get 500 views on a reel. Like, imagine 500 people sat and listened to you talk for 30 seconds. Like, that would be crazy. So keeping that in mind, I think quality is really important. We get caught up in all these metrics, but, like, focus on building that audience that is actually just bought in on you and will say your name in rooms that you're not in and share your stuff and hype you up, because that is so important. I think it's really important to view it as an experiment. This is something I feel like we've always kind of been good at, especially you. It's just like, let's throw stuff out there and see what works. Like, we're always experimenting, trying stuff. And when a post flops and does miserable and gets like 3 views, perfect. That is great information for you to use. Was it the timing? Was it the hook? What was it? And start to, like Jess said, like, really look at those analytics and figure out what's working and what's not. But don't get down on yourself when you have a failed post, because it's actually great information and data for you to use. And then the last thing I think is just remember how much information we're actually processing. Like, our ancestors were probably processing like 1/100th of what we are actually consuming in a day. And so it's really easy to get caught up in comparison, and that person's successful, so I have to do my reel like that. And I hate dancing, but I'm going to dance anyway because that's what you have to do to make it to the top. And it's like, no, you actually don't have to dance to make it to the top, you know? So I think staying true to you and being authentic and spending more time creating than you spend consuming.
Yeah, I think especially when the creative thing, like, I find it hard with social you get overwhelmed by so much content and inspired sometimes, like, right? You see stuff, you're like, wow, that's awesome. Or that person's like killing it. But more so, sometimes I find like the best ideas come in that silence and that stillness and being off social and, like, yeah, getting downloads. But yeah, there's lots of different ways to do it. I'm curious for you ladies, like, when you hear someone, you know, because one of the things I think you're talking a bit about is confidence, right? And I totally agree on the American thing. Like, we have some Americans in the room, which thank you so much for being here. Yeah. I always love when Americans come because I'm like, you guys have lots at home, and I'm so honored that you traveled all the way here because, yeah, I just was so honored. But there is like a different level of, I think, communication that comes from it. We see it with our American clients. Like it's a bit different. I'm always like, are they? Marina is actually, she'll probably tell this story on stage, so I'll beat her to it. But Marina, we do their podcast, and Marina one time sent us an email in bold. And I was like, what the? I didn't even know you could bold emails. Like, I have never bolded anything. So I call her instantly. And I'm like, hey, saw the bolded email. Just want to check in about that. And she was like, oh, just wanted to just let you know you should do that. I was like, oh, like, you're not upset? She's like, no, there was a smiley face. I was like, there was still bold. There was still bold, right? But it's just that, like, that confidence. So what would you say for someone who's listening to this and they want to, like, build confidence in selling? Like, and maybe they're nervous or they're shy or they're feeling like they are definitely in a scare season or whatever that looks like. How would you encourage someone to build confidence?
So I feel one of the things with confidence is that it comes from a level of competency. And with sales, it is actually a process. So if you've never learnt sales, sometimes it's being conscious of that and being like, well, hang on a minute, maybe I actually need to develop the skill, right, to become competent in it. A sales process is understanding what someone goes through in their mind and the questions that they have and the emotional resistance that they have and the logic that they need in order to make a decision. So if we're not conscious of that process, then sometimes what we see on socials or what we see in other people's sales process is, oh, you want this solution? Here's what I got. Do you want it? No? Okay. And run away. Whereas it's actually much longer than that. And it's taking time to really get to know the client, listen to them, reflect back to them, understand their objections, understand the emotional resistance that they will go through in order to decide if it's the right fit for them. Everyone goes through it, depending on the level of investment for something. And so I feel like if you want to really develop your confidence, there's a couple of things. So one, understand the process. And I actually have it's in my Instagram links. It's called Authentic Sales Scripts. You'll find it in there. It actually has a sales call process. So if you run sales calls and you want to understand the process, it takes you through every step and it's free. So feel free to download that. But when it comes to the confidence piece, one of the things I always tell my clients is practice. Practice saying it out loud. Practice presenting your offer. Practice talking about the price of your offer. Say it out loud, even if it's to your dog. Like, honestly, like, say it out loud many, many times, because when it comes to sales, people buy from people who have the conviction, right? If they're in emotional resistance, they want certainty. So they're looking to feel this confidence and certainty coming from you, and that comes with practice. So if you feel like it's something that you feel awkward about it, you've got to start with your mindset. If you're saying, well, I'm going to be salesy, I'm going to be pushy, you've got to think about, okay, what does my client need, and how can I support them to make the right decision for them? Because I have the solution, and they need the solution. So I'm going to stay present with them throughout the process to support them and not get in my own head about it. And then I'm going to do the work to practice being able to present confidently, because people will buy from a place of confidence rather than from a place of like being convinced out of not buying. So yeah, I think the confidence piece is the practice, and I think people don't practice the sales process enough, and they get in their heads about it instead of being fully present with the client in the conversation.
Love that. Okay, when I look at confidence, confidence is just a state. At any moment, you could shift into a feeling of confidence. So I want to keep that in perspective. It's really not something outside of yourself. It's something that you allow yourself to tap into, kind of like we had a feeling that you guys expanded within yourself earlier. But things that help reinforce that, for sure, the competence. And I love this idea that aligned action creates clarity and confidence. And so, and even tying in, treating it like an experiment, it's like, you get clear. Do you believe, if you don't have confidence, I would ask yourself, do I believe in what I'm doing? If you're selling something that you're like, this is not good for anybody involved and I hate it, then maybe that's something else to explore. But if you're like, yes, I love it. Yes, this can help people in the way that I'm supposed to help people, remember that. Have that be the root as you're taking action forward, but then you get to treat it like an experiment. If you have something like a sales conversation or you're doing a launch and it doesn't convert the way you wanted, we also want to pay attention to what are we making that mean. Because if we just look at the isolated metrics, if we just look at the data is neutral, but then we make it mean what? Like, oh, I'm a loser, I suck, this is never going to work, nobody wants from me, and we start to go in this hiding game. Or we look at it and we're like, oh, interesting. Can we be the gentle observer? Like, oh, interesting, what is this telling me? What do I want to do next? It really has nothing to do with you and your confidence. You get to be confident because you want to be confident. And these results, they're just data, but so often we conflate things and make them mean something about us. And that's when it starts to get really heavy and twisted and difficult. And so if we can remember that and create the separation, then we're able to, implement the sales call strategy that's aligned for us. We're able to move in that action because we're not tripping ourselves up by attaching meaning to an outcome. And then you can see, just to take it a step further, how then we could turn into maybe some sort of a desperate energy or a coercive energy, because then it's no longer even just about losing a sale. It's like you're putting your worth on the line. If these people don't buy, if this amount of people don't sign, then what? What are you making it mean about you? So that conflation is something that causes a lot of chaos. And so separating it allows you to be in your clarity, therefore in your confidence, while you're gaining competence in your action.
I love the aligned action and confidence and clarity conversation, because that was the biggest shift for me. I used to think, okay, you got to get the confidence down, then you got to get the clarity down, and then once everything's in place, then you go take the action. And spoiler alert, that day never comes. Like, you're never going to be 100% confident and 100% clear. So you have to take the action first, and then that's actually when the other two come after, right? So Kristina and I talk about this all the time, messy action. That has been like one of the best strategies we used in our business. And it's just doing things imperfectly. Because when you try and make them perfect, you're going to be waiting forever. So from a perfectionist like me, taking messy action has been huge. And then once you start to take that action, the clarity and confidence comes from that, because you start to get the experience, you have the conversations, you hear the pushbacks, you understand the objectives. And I think if you're taking the action and still struggling, like, use your community. Like, find your friend who's the best person at sales and have a chat with them. Hire someone like Christine to really walk you through it and teach you their framework. Even like what we'll do, like, we have this little group chat where we'll just drop in there like, hey, somebody said this to me on a sales call. Is this insane? Or like,
It often is.
and they're like, yeah, that's insane. Like, don't worry about that, right? So sometimes you just need that like sounding board, that reassurance. But I think you have a lot of resources within your community, within this room alone, to be able to pour into you when you're lacking that confidence.
Yeah, I think especially because like sales is such a people game, where it's in a relationship game. Like, so much of it is about like, building relationships, connecting with people. Someone might buy from you, someone might not. They might buy from you in 5 years. They might not. Like, they might make a referral. They may not. Like, you might do business with someone and it's bad. Like, we've had experiences where we've done business with people and it's been a negative experience and someone else is obsessed with them. That's fine, right? Like, not everyone is meant to work with everyone. Not everything is meant to kind of jive all together. I'm curious from your perspective, again, I don't know if this is a hot take, so we'll see where this goes, but they asked me actually in advance. They're like, what are you going to ask? I was like, we'll see. But yeah, always. Oh, yeah. But I did adjust this title, but anyway. Okay, so my question for you. In entrepreneurship, there's like this rhetoric around fake it till you make it. So it's like, go into that sales call and give them a price that you can say with a serious face. Go in there and say something like obnoxious so that you can make more money. If you're not confident enough, just pretend you're confident enough. Like, all of that. And I think that there is obviously some truth to being confident, right? And sometimes you're not always going to be in the season where you feel the confidence and embodying that. But I also think in this world right now, we do have this trust recession. We have this thing because people are out there lying about things that they're doing. So I think fake it till you make it has gone too far. What are your thoughts on that when it comes to sales and, jumping on sales calls and selling your products or services? Hot take?
Oh, hot take. Okay.
Christine's like, yes, lie.
No, fuck no. So the amount of times I have women come to me and say, oh, this sales coach or this business coach told me I should triple my prices, this is what I should be charging, and I still suck at sales. And it's usually because they don't fully believe in the value of that price point. And if you are doing that, you will self-sabotage it every day of the week. You have to back it. And I feel like when it comes to setting your pricing, being conscious of the market is really important. Yes. And then setting a price, like I always ask my clients to go, okay, what's too cheap for your service? Write that down. Then what's too expensive in your mind is too expensive. And then what's the middle ground? Because you have to be able to be confidently backing it in order for the client to feel the certainty and confidence within you. Otherwise, you will come across on that sales conversation from a place of anxiety, a place of uncertainty, and that will come through as fear, and your client will feel the fear and run the other direction. So I am a big believer of like setting your pricing with what feels good for you. But secondly, you must understand the value of what it is that you're delivering based on your customer's mindset, not yours. Because often we can get in our own heads about it being like, oh, but it's easy for me, or it's quick. I can do it because I've got 15 years experience. It doesn't take me long, so I should charge less. No. You need to consider the value from a point of time, money, and energy from your customer's point of view in order for you to truly believe the value of what it is that you do, right? And then you can back it, and then you can set your pricing, and then you can always start to increase it in increments until you fully back it at that next tier of pricing. And then with the fake it till you make it, I don't subscribe to that. I'm more of a act it until you are it, is my philosophy, because you need to step into the next level version of yourself. So developing a mindset, like Jess was speaking about earlier, your brain is an evidence looking machine, right? So sometimes you need to create the evidence. So you need to take the scary action, do the thing that is hard, and then build the proof that you're capable. And so often, depending on the stages of business and the type of clients that you work with, you may need to develop the evidence that your service or offering is worth more. Right? And so, like, I remember launching one of my first group programs and charging very little for it because I didn't have the belief in what I was delivering because it was brand new. And then I took clients through it. I had a specific framework that I was taking them through it in order for clients to hit 10K months, and then had so many of my clients hit 10K months that I was like, oh, this is worth a little bit more. And so you have to have the evidence to prove to it. And I think you've also got to back it in the market. So I think that, act it until you are it. Start to build the belief systems of the future version of yourself and start leaning into developing that confidence and build the proof by taking the scary action and doing it until you have the confidence to back it.
I just want to quickly note the market piece I think is really important. I think that's something people don't do a lot of, is where, you do a little bit of market research, this is why for us has been so important. A lot of our best business friends are other agencies and people who are doing similar things, where we were able to go to people and people be like, oh yeah, because you'll get customers who will never pay you. And you'll be like, oh, my prices are too expensive. And then you're going to get customers who are like, yep, signed and paid in full. And you're like, oh, I may have underquoted that, right? And then, so it's like, I could want a hat from Woven. And if Whitney is like, this hat is $10,000, it's probably not worth $10,000, even though it's from Whitney and she believes in this hat, But if, someone else is selling it for $50, I'm probably going to buy it there and still love Whitney. So I think it's important to really be doing some of that research as well and talking to peers and knowing what's going on. Maybe
Okay,
I'll buy the hat.
with fake it till you make it, do you guys like that? I don't really know anybody that's like, that sounds awesome. I'm so excited to just go fake it every day. If we really think about it, it's not really a solid strategy. It doesn't really check out anywhere, but it is passed around a lot, that we should do that. So I take a look at it. If we're feeling like we have to fake something, I'm going to go to belief system. And remember, you can't outwork, outrun, outperform your belief system. And so what if you developed a belief in yourself first, so then you're not faking anything. And then you get to implement exactly what Kristina was talking about when you're figuring out your prices, and when you're starting, you can incrementally increase. But have you ever had a time, I'm trying to think of a specific example of this, and I'll think about it in the middle of the night, but where somebody oversells themselves, you really talk a big talk, I think of a dude, yeah, I do this, and then they have to follow up on it, and you're like, oh my gosh, that fell flat. So anytime you maybe feel like you had to overperform or oversell, and then you're on the hook for it, then you have to deliver on that. And doesn't it feel so much better to have congruency, to just exactly be clear on, this is who I am, what I offer, the results that I deliver, and then that's what you get to do when the person says yes. And so when people are saying fake it, it's you're selling something that you aren't, so that then you get something from someone and then you can't even give them what they were paying for, right? So none of it makes sense. So I would root back to your belief system, expand your belief system, and then I love that act it till you are. You get to embody that. Doesn't mean dim your light, hold yourself small, believe in yourself fully, and let that be the thing that connects to the people as you are building and committed to the iterations of your business.
Yeah, I hate faking it. I can't fake anything. I cannot even tell a white lie. So yeah, definitely not into the faking it. I think what it's about is how you position the thing you're trying to fake, right? We always talk about this at the beginning. I was so insecure because the social snippet was just Kristina and I, our meet the team page was very short.
We we should have, and this is in hindsight, we should have done a back-to-back Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen picture as our photo. We missed the opportunity.
Big missed opportunity.
Yeah.
But there's a way to spin that, right?
Yeah.
Like we were like, we cared so much and we were so small but mighty and we like had our boots on the ground, and now like clients trying to work with us all the time and it's like, sorry, no. But at the beginning that's the part I was insecure about, and we could fake it and like pretend we have this big team. But actually I think the play is like leaning into the positive side of that, right? So like those things that you're like insecure about or feel like kind of disqualify you, actually turning those into strengths and allowing those to be part of your confidence. I think like a beta group is a great example of that. Like you could position that as like, oh, this is the first time I'm doing something and it's kind of an experiment and I don't really know and I'm just gonna like make it up as I go along and I'm gonna like ask for a lot from you guys and I need a lot of feedback. Or you could say like, I'm intentionally creating this thing that is on my heart, and I want this very small curated group of people who are going to get it at the cheapest price it'll ever be, and I'm going to custom create it with you guys. I'm going to take your feedback every step of the way, and we're going to be in this together. And like that actually is an amazing opportunity. So I think a big part of it is really spinning it to see those things that might be like a negative into actually your strengths.
Yeah, I love that. No, I love that, especially because I know it can be difficult when you're getting started to feel that confidence. We can grow into that, and one of the things I love is this idea of like sometimes your small audience is actually your superpower, because even we get this sometimes. Not that we have a big audience by any means, but sometimes we'll meet with people and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that I could afford your services." And I'm like, why didn't you ask? Like, of course, like, or we want to make things affordable. That's like on our heart is to make things like really like reasonable for people. But it's interesting how we make assumptions about people, or we see someone with a big following and we're like, oh, we're not going to buy from them because there's not going to be any access to them. And but a big following might not mean that you don't have access to them. It might not mean what you think it does, right? So sometimes your small following or your small community is actually your superpower to be able to make most impact. So I'm going to open this up for 2 questions, and live, and so, yeah. Oh, Vanessa's got a question, and then Leslie.
Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for all the gems. I'm curious about the offline community piece. If you could speak to that a little bit. I know the masterminds, the events, all of that, just general, how do we build our communities when we're trying to get off of social, even though, we're focused on that, but what are some of the key action steps that you think are really helpful to growing your business offline?
I feel like the building relationships piece comes down to making someone feel important, making them feel seen and heard and feel important in your life. And I think sometimes I'll have conversations with people and they kind of downplay what they do, or they downplay how they can help you. And I've just learnt this from Chris and Laurie as well, where it's like you already have so much value to add. And so thinking about how you can help another person and how you can also support them to see their value. And so making someone feel important is one of the first steps. And I always like to think about how I can connect other people, because especially like I work with a lot of women in business that we all think it feels really lonely in business, right? And so if I can connect another human with another human to make them feel more seen and more heard and feel important, that goes so far. And the other thing I think is finding ways to think about other people in unique ways. So and I think I took this actually from Brendan Burchard at the dinner series, where he said like every Friday he has a couple of hours set aside where he has an intentional list of people that he connects with and just reaches out and be like, how can I help you? What do you need right now? What connections do you need me to make for you? And I've implemented that, and it's made such a big difference, where it's with either my peers or it's with other people I want to connect and build relationships with, or it's existing potential clients or my audience, where I'll take intentional time to be like, hey, how are you? What do you need? How can I support you? And then other ways is like finding ways to make someone feel important. So it could be just as simple as a message, or it could be a gift, or it could be, sending a coffee card or something like that, to be like, hey, I've been thinking about you recently. Here's something for you.
So I'm going to take it in the direction of the you are the magic, right? You, and that means everybody in this room, you in and of yourself are the magic. So I'm kind of a believer in showing up without an agenda, showing up and just really, and I mean that like, have you met someone and you're like, they're trying to sign me? I just learned their name and whatever. And when you're operating with the belief that you are the magic, then everybody just gets to come together and connect as normal humans. That was like the number one sales tip that I heard like my first years in business. It's like, just don't be a weirdo. Like, just be a human. And we forget sometimes when we're like in business and we're at an event, we're like, oh no, you just gotta be yourself. You're the magic, just you. And so anything you can do to like ground and settle yourself, and then looking for ways to genuinely connect, but I don't even mean it like, it doesn't even have to be in a business way. I think of like, part of what I love so much about my career is that I get to help people like feel better about themselves. I get to help them shift so they can feel better. You can do that without being a coach. Like, everybody can do that. And so if you're just having a conversation where you just get to lift people up, I feel like that is it's just a good energy to be in, for lack of a less fluffy way of saying it. And then as you leave the event or whatever, then things will come in your mind, like something you'll recall it, like a genuinely funny moment you had. And if you think about it, you can send them a DM, or it's like, oh, they were looking for that and I just met this person, because you're looking at people without an agenda. You're just seeing them for who they are. You're being a normal human, and it feels so much better. And I think that's always what my message is going to come back to, of like, how does it feel? How do you want it to be? And if we're showing up with an agenda, it kind of sabotages our effort. And so when you go and you just show like, this is me, and you don't have to be for everybody, you're just there to, love and be yourself and show your magic and see the magic in others, that will pay dividends that you can't anticipate, that you're not intentionally, strategically trying to create.
Kristina and I always laugh about how like 80% of our business success is just being normal human beings. It really works. But Kristina's the community queen, so I'm gonna let you answer this one.
Someone asked us recently, they were like, how did you grow your business so fast? I'm like, I think it's because we're normal and we laugh. And I think that's it. A few things I'm just going to share really fast. And also the reason for the change in title on this is, you guys probably noticed this, but we lost a panelist along the way, which is why Jess is here. And so we did a little mindset shift. So my apologies on that. But so a few things. One, for us, obviously we've invested a lot in events and masterminds and going to, we're a service-based business. And something we really pride ourselves on is like, we don't pitch. Like, that's just like part of our nature. Hopefully that's the experience that you guys have had with us. Like, we don't pitch. It's like hard pressed for you to get a quote from me. You have to ask me explicitly for a quote. I will not give one. And part of that is because we live in like good energy. And one of the things that Brendan Burchard, when he spoke at the dinner series that Kristina and I were both at, was this idea of like, sometimes when you have relationships, like, you're going to go to a room like this and you're going to leave and you're going to be like, what was the ROI of that? And you're not going to know today. Okay, so like, you might not leave today. Maybe you got an amazing outfit that felt good. Maybe you heard one thing that changed your business. You have no idea. 2 years from now, you're gonna look back in this room, you're gonna be like, I was in that room, and that's where I met 5 people that changed my business, changed my life. And one of the things Brennan said, because I think somebody asked, it actually might have been me, but somebody asked, like, you go to all these events and there's all these people, and like, how do you keep track of people, and like all that stuff. And he was like, you need to understand that your ROI is like already calculated. And he meant it more from a spiritual sense, like, and you can take it as you wish, but like, as you wish. But like, our ROI is already calculated. So if we don't come into these spaces being like, how am I going to make my money back? Like, I paid $400 for this ticket. Like, I want to squeeze $600 out. Like, that's not going to be the energy that's going to make this happen, right? Like, we've spent, $5,000 on rooms that like have given us like $1 million, right? Like, but just by showing up. So, and then the other thing I was going to say, which is similar to Christine's point, is this idea of adding value to people. Something I do in every room I'm in is I listen to the questions people ask, and they'll say, oh, I'm looking for a web designer, or I'm having trouble with my ads, or I'm having trouble with this. And I have a killer network, and you're all now part of it. And I have a killer network, and I will give myself one pat on the back. I have an exceptional memory. And so I will remember these things, and I will be like, okay, Vanessa's looking for somebody who does ads. Jeanette would be a great person to help you. Or if it's Google Ads, maybe Tiffany will help you. And I'm able to make that connection without that person even asking. And I will do that for high-level people who I have nothing to offer to, right? I might never buy their program. I might never invest in them in any way. But even Chris and Lori, I'm very blessed. I'm coaching their mastermind right now. The way they joke about this, and they said this in the call recently, but they were like, oh, Kristina is like persistent. And the way that she kind of got into our world was, I would just repost their podcast episodes. Like, I would just be like, oh, I listened to this and this was of value. And they were so grateful for that, because as a podcaster, you're like, I'm speaking into the void. And this was like my way of just being helpful. And that grew a relationship, that grew me. I did invest with them a few times. And now it's a friendship, which is a beautiful thing. But I didn't do that with the agenda of like, oh, I hope they run a mastermind one day that I can coach in, So it's like, you just never know where things are going to go. You never know, guys. Okay, one last question from Leslie. I'm sorry, I can't be in charge.
Hi, I'm Leslie Robertson. So as many of you guys know, I have an in-person personal training studio, but I also offer a virtual gym as well. And I mean, this is a selfish question. I'm sure it'll help other people too, but I'm wondering, and I wrote it down because I'm nervous talking on a mic always. So what's your strategy for converting leads in the DMs compared to traditional sales call? And how do you decide which approach to use and when?
It's so unique to the customer, to be honest. So my first thing would be to have some market research conversations with your customer to understand how they would like to purchase and what they need to hear from you in order to feel comfortable making that purchase. I may have a different take on this when it comes to high ticket. If your service or product is under $1,000, then you can absolutely sell in the DM. If it's above $1,000, then I believe it warrants a sales call if the client would like one. Often people don't offer that, and that feels like a barrier to feel like, well, why aren't you giving me an amount of that time to overcome my objections and have a real conversation with that person to feel safe to make the purchase? So I would determine with your customer, how do they want to purchase and what touch points do they need in order to feel comfortable making that buy? Can that happen in the DMs? Is there certain value that they need to have from you in order to see the value in making that next step purchase, and build out your customer journey to understand what needs to come next for them, and then build that out to support that. So you might be like, okay, these are the green lights that I get in a DM in order to then offer a sales conversation on a phone call or a Zoom, or it could be like, these are the green flags that then is totally fine for me to then buy here, right? So sorry, to sell here in the DMs. The sales scripts that I mentioned earlier in my DMs, that's got a full script in it, so feel free to practice that and put that in place. If anyone wants it, just DM me, I can send it to you. What was the other second half of the question? Sorry. Yeah, I kind of answered that. So yeah, determine what they feel is most comfortable, because some people are totally comfortable buying from a DM, and I find that they're the ones that they've seen enough value from you online that they already know that your paid stuff will be so worth it. I feel like that's where you need to over deliver on socials in order for them to get wins, to see the value in working with you. And that's where I was saying before, give them the how. Don't hold back. Don't be like, oh no, they should only be for people who pay me. Nah, give. And then people will pay for the process, the accountability, the support in order to have the transformation.
Love that. Everyone go get her free resources. They sound so valuable. I'm going to get them too. Okay, so let's see. To me, it depends on what the person is buying, right? So when I'm selling a course, that's easy DM conversations. It doesn't really warrant a sales call. There's a sales page. There's a lot of information. The questions can be answered in the DMs, and I like that, because then even if you can hey, are you okay switching to a voice note? Then you can build a little bit of trust there. And I always like people to hear my voice, because then it'll eliminate people that'll be like, she is obnoxious. I want them to hear me a little bit, because otherwise they're gonna be real disappointed when they get in the programs and it's a lot of my voice, right? So you think of those things, it's what is an obstacle? And we just want to be able to close the door on those, so that they're not a barrier for them making an empowered decision. So something like a course, which is generally, a little bit of a lower price, and it's a group setting, right? They're going in there. DM seems totally sufficient because it matches what I'm selling. Now, if I'm selling one-on-one, that's something they'll fill out an application, and then it depends on the person, just like what Christine said. I love being on a sales call, because the sales call isn't me trying to hard sell someone. It's really, hey, where are you? Why is this important to you? What's making you look for a coach? What type of coaching are you looking for? What type of results? I want to know from them that it's the right fit for both of us. And so sometimes in a sales conversation, what we call a sales conversation is just a clarity conversation, where you are getting the information you need to make sure it's a right fit, so you can both be confident moving forward. And also, I just am such a believer in what can I do to help my future client make an empowered decision. And so these are leads coming in. So even if it's a lead coming in and the decision is a no, I want them to do that from an empowered place, not because they don't have information, or they're afraid, or they don't believe in themselves, they don't want to bet in themselves, they don't want to invest in themselves. Those aren't good reasons to not make a decision one way or another. So it's let's remove those so you can make that decision of, yes, this is for me, or no, this is not, just from a true, clear place. And so having some sort of a conversation does that. So I would look at your products and say, what are the obstacles to purchase? And do those barriers get overcome best if we're on a one-on-one Zoom? Or does that shut people down, and it's better to do a DM voice note? Or it's you're let me send you bullet points, and there we go. There's not going to be one right way to do it all. This is where you get to really tune in to your ideal client and what creates that clarity so they can make that empowered decision.
Can I just add one more thing? Different personality types have different buying strategies as well. So sometimes people will need a criteria and that will then tick their boxes and they'll be like, cool, I'm in. Other people will need different touch points, multiple touch points with you in order to feel comfortable making that decision. Other people will have a certain amount of time that will need to pass before they're ready to buy. And the fourth one is they feel connected to you and they like you and they want to be in your energy and they want to work with you from that perspective. So that's why it's you can't have just one strategy. It's like, how do you consider the customer and what they need? You will often attract what your buying strategy is a lot of the time. So even if you think about which one is yours, you'll attract a lot of those people, but then being conscious of speaking to the others as well. Because I often have people that will say like, oh, if the person didn't convert off one conversation, it's kind of like they're dead to me. And I'm like, you are missing out on like so many incredible relationships. Like I had a client recently convert after, I think 4 conversations. And I never got annoyed. Like I was never like, oh, you want to talk to me again about this? Like never. I was like, cool, you're still in emotional resistance. You're still not 100% sure of the certainty of what I can deliver. What questions do you have? How can I support you in this decision? Because I know her life is going to change. Like I know that my life isn't going to if she just doesn't decide to, but I know that her life will, and it's scary. It's scary to make big investments. And so being able to hold space for that and just being conscious of the different buying decisions that people have help support the sales process that you put in place.
So good. They nailed it. I don't have anything to add.
Perfect. Okay,
Bring us home.
Yeah. Ladies, thank you so much for this. This was so powerful, so many good gems.